Hello, my name is Cindy Flores. I'm a licensed professional counselor and I'm trained in mindfulness-based stress reduction. I'm doing a series of mindful topics during the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm doing this in collaboration with Whitehorse Village and Friends Life Care Partners. This is the final session, and I'd like to bring together many of the topics that I discussed previously. Starting with what is mindfulness? Most people think mindfulness and meditation are the same thing. And though there's some truth to that, I think of it as mindfulness is a huge umbrella, and under that umbrella are many spokes. Silent meditation, guided meditation are two of those spokes. But when you think about mindfulness, it's being in the present moment, being aware of what is happening. And so from that perspective, when you take a mindful approach to anything, that is a form of mindfulness and a form of meditation. So if sitting quietly or doing a guided meditation does not suit you, if it does not feel right for you, there are many things you can do. Go for a mindful walk, do mindful eating, do Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga. There are many ways to formally and informally do mindfulness. However, mindfulness is really a way of life rather than an activity. However, it's those activities that help train the brain to be mindful in all moments. The truth is we're human and we're not going to be mindful at every moment. There are going to be times that we slip out of that and find ourselves being depressed about the past or anxious about the future. But then when we have a mindful way of living, as soon as we become aware of that, we just gently bring ourselves back to mindful choices, because mindfulness is about knowing that life. It's about choices. It is not about reactivity. So I'm hoping that if you've been able to listen to several of the discussions in this series, that you've come to realize that there are certain attitudinal foundations that help us reach and stay mindful. In each session, I introduced an attitudinal foundation. And for this last session, I'm introducing non-striving. That can become challenging for many people, especially of the American culture. Because from a very young age, we are taught that we are measured by our doing, by the grades we get, by the activities we do, the sports, how well we do in sports, or in playing an instrument. Everything's measured, and we learn that part of our value is in the doing. But mindfulness is not about the doing. It is about the being. It is about the way we perceive and accept ourselves and the way we interact and accept others. I was reading an interview from Tara Brach. If those of you who are not familiar with Tara Brach, there's John Kabat-Zinn at the University of Massachusetts who developed mindfulness-based stress reduction. and he is one of the main mindfulness teachers in the United States. However, Tara Brach also is a very well-renowned mindfulness teacher. She is located in Washington, D.C., and she developed the Insight Meditation community. And I wanted to take a moment. This is from an interview that was just on March 18th of this year, 2020. And I just wanted to read a little bit of what she said, because I think it does help to sum up what intention I'm holding for this session. And quoting Tara Brach, in China, the word for mindfulness is present heart. If we keep emphasizing the heart side of things, if we keep offering care to ourselves and to others, that's going to make us much more tender, and we'll live naturally from a more ethical place. The true impact of meditation is that it actually dissolves our excessive sense of self. It frees up our sense of connection with each other. But if we think mindfulness is just something I do that I can feel better in the midst of fear, then it's going to have a much more self-centered feel. And with holding that intention, yes, mindfulness practices, things that we've done in these sessions, sitting in silent meditation, is very much an individual process. It's very much about getting in touch with ourselves. But it's only through the mindful practices that we strengthen our awareness of our connection with others, of realizing that we do have an impact on others. Sometimes, especially in times like this, when we feel like we're physically isolated, we can question, am I having an impact? And the answer is definitely yes. If you are holding the intention of being there for others, if you are choosing to hold others in your heart as they go through this difficult time. I wanted a little bit of color behind me today, and I looked out in my yard, and the only thing that was in bloom, because the forsythias are starting to wither, were the bleeding hearts. So I went out and I cut them, and as I was cutting off the flower, it hit me that that really sums up for a lot of us how we are feeling right now. Many of us feel like we have bleeding hearts. We may be heavy-hearted for ourselves, our loved ones, for the first responders who are putting their lives on the line every day, to those we know who are ill, to those who have lost loved ones, or perhaps they've lost their businesses. In many ways, this is a very, very heavy time for all of us. We are all going through this together. But just like we are going through this together, we can also choose to be there for each other. We can choose, when we get through this, to be there for others in a way that maybe we weren't prior to the pandemic. There's hope if we all take time for insight and awareness to ourselves, and insight and awareness of what this might be teaching us in this moment, beyond the sadness, beyond the unknown. So as I was preparing for this session, the meditation that seemed to be front and center was the rain meditation. This is a meditation that I often do when I'm working with groups of people who are grieving. But it can be used at any time for anyone, because it is really a way of just developing that sense of what we are really experiencing in the present moment. RAIN is an acronym. R stands for recognize. A stands for allow. I stands for investigate. And N stands for nurture. And in this session, I would like to facilitate a RAIN meditation. So I invite you to sit in a way that supports the practice with the head erect over the spine, with the shoulders slightly back in an open-hearted position. And I invite you to close your eyes or divert them down with a gentle gaze, whichever is more comfortable for you. And take a deep breath in and a slow exhale out. Take several more breaths in this fashion. The breath is the anchor of our meditation practice. And I invite you now to recognize whatever emotion is present within you at this moment. And can you be with that emotion without trying to either grasp it or push it away? Are you able to notice the thoughts that accompany this emotion? And without working hard, just using your intuition, can you feel where you are storing this emotion in this moment? Where do you feel this emotion in the body? Do you have a sense of the size of this within the body? Does it have a shape, a color, a texture? Does it seem to stay the same, or does it change from moment to moment? With this awareness, can you just allow this emotion to be present? Often, when we allow something to be present rather than trying to grasp it or push it away, it is freer to move through the body. And as you have an awareness of the emotion, perhaps even thoughts, in this moment, can you nurture yourself? Take a moment to check in to see what you need in this moment. What would be soothing? What would be helpful? What would allow you to move through this emotion if it's one that you consider unpleasant? And as you envision what your need is, just check in with the body again and see if the emotion has shifted or if it has altered in some way. And if this need is something that you need to attend to after the session, I encourage you to act upon it. Now come back to the breath, taking a deep breath in, nourishing the body on the in breath, and cleansing the body on the out breath. Allowing yourself to ride the waves of the breath, nourishing and then cleansing. Take 2 more breaths in and out. And on the second exhale, open your eyes. And just check in and see how you're feeling in this moment. There was something else Tara Brach had said in this interview. It echoes what I was saying in the session on mindfulness and compassion. But I'd like to read this as a reminder. Tara Brach says, and I quote, "So I think emphasizing the heart practices is critical. One of the heart practices is called loving kindness. That's where we take time to appreciate the goodness in other people. We might remind ourselves of the health workers on the front lines who are risking their lives to help people who are suffering. Or we might think of someone we know and remind ourselves of their humor, their intelligence, their care. And then we offer them our best wishes. The ultimate gift of meditation is that it helps us come home to a space of presence that is large enough for whatever we encounter. And it's from that space that we actually live from who we most want to be. This is a time where we can really reflect on that. In many ways, life is slower, though emotionally we may even feel busier. We may feel a change that comes on as we get more information or we notice a change in what's happening. But it's that awareness that helps us to grow and develop our mindful life. And as we move through this time, we'll move into a time of healing and an opportunity to choose, perhaps, to do things differently. Perhaps not get caught up in the doing as often and recognize the value of sitting in stillness. In this time, we can decide what is the message we want to leave with this world while we are here and beyond. And so I'd like to end this session with a poem for your reflection. It's a poem by Bessie Anderson Stanley. I read in some spaces where some people attribute it to Ralph Waldo Emerson, but it was actually written by Bessie Anderson Stanley. And the poem is titled Success. And I'd like to read this to you now. He has achieved success who has lived well, laughed often, and loved much, who has enjoyed the trust of pure women, the respect of intelligent men, and the love of little children, who has filled his niche and accomplished his task, who has left the world better than he found it, whether by an improved poppy, a perfect poem, or a rescued soul, who has never lacked appreciation of earth's beauty or failed to express it, who has always looked for the best in others and given them the best he had, whose life was an inspiration, whose memory a benediction. I think that poem really sums up my intention of expressing aspects of mindfulness with you in these sessions, that we can open to our intention rather than reacting to external experiences, that we can choose to be who we want to be in the world for ourselves and for others. I hope that these sessions have been useful and helpful. I'm hoping that you can integrate them into your daily living. So as we end this session, I would just say, stay safe, stay healthy, and live mindfully.